So guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. So guys, smash the like button. As you guys are aware, smash the like button, get the videos out there, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed, hit the notification bell. Guys, there seems to be, for me, I don't know what you guys think, there seems to be a little beef between Canelo Alvarez and Andre Ward. From what's being reported, now I don't know if some of these things are true because I tried to look for official articles online, but I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find anything that was giving me concrete evidence that Canelo Alvarez said that Ward can come in the ring and I'll knock him out as well. But there seems to me that there's some kind of, there's something brewing, you know, there's something being cooked up here. There was some kind of, I think something on Instagram as well, where Ward was showing a message. I don't know, something's brewing here between Canelo and Ward. Now, I don't know if this will lead to a potential fight. I think Andre Ward then working with Caleb Plant as well. Something's brewing here for me. I think there's something bubbling up, you know, behind the surface that maybe we're not being shown, that's not being reported by mainstream media, although some YouTube channels are reporting it. It's not being reported by mainstream media that, is there something going on between Canelo and Andre Ward which will lead to a potential fight? I think when you've got two great fighters like that and one of them still relatively young, Ward's not young anymore. He's been inactive and he said he's not going to come back. However, money can bring you back, especially when you feel that you're not finished. And Ward probably even now thinks he could beat Canelo. So for me, I think there's something definitely being cooked up here. I think there's definitely a possibility that, I won't be shocked if a Canelo Ward fight in the future happens. However, I think it would be a mistake for Ward to come back now. But Ward never really got the recognition, he never really got the big fights. This would be a massive fight and a huge payday for him. It'd be his biggest payday by a country mile. And Canelo Alvarez is an all-time great. You can argue, did really Ward beat an all-time great? Possibly Kovalev, but that's it really. And even Kovalev, he had limited opponents at 175. He didn't really fight Stevenson. So you can argue that even Kovalev's not really an all-time great. A Canelo win would really look good on his resume, but it's very risky right now, and Canelo's at the peak of his powers. I don't know if this fight is going to happen. I think that Andre Ward working with Caleb Plant, it just seemed a bit bizarre to me. Now, obviously, he may be friends with Caleb. I don't know the situation there, but it just seemed a little bit bizarre. Like, was it a fact that Andre Ward wants Canelo to get beat because he doesn't want people to say in the future that, Canelo is a greater super middleweight than him? So is this a way of him trying to work with him, trying to, give Caleb some advice so Caleb can go in there and, beat Canelo Alvarez and that way, Canelo won't be seen as the same level as Ward? I don't know. Canelo's going to go down a greater fighter than Ward, irrespective of what happens against Plant, because Canelo's achieved more, he's more accomplished, he's beaten better fighters. So I think he's going to go down a greater fighter anyway. But is it a case where Andre Ward doesn't want Canelo to surpass his achievements at light heavy or super middleweight? So he's trying to, help Caleb Plant potentially beat Canelo Alvarez. It's tricky for me. It's definitely tricky. But I personally feel there's something definitely going on behind the scenes. I definitely think that this could be a potential fight. It wouldn't shock me if Canelo and Andre Ward get it on. Just because of the things that I've just said. I think that, the fact that, Ward is working with Caleb, it's a bit bizarre. It was a bit unexpected. It came out of nowhere. Is there a little jealousy there? Ward doesn't strike me as a guy that would be bitter, but then you don't know. You don't know. He may feel that he can beat Canelo. Maybe trying to pass on some information to Caleb. Can Caleb execute it in the fight? Probably not. Will Andre Ward be lured back? Because remember, if Andre Ward was never undisputed, imagine how big that fight would be if Andre Ward comes back at 168. Now, the weight will be a problem because I don't know whether Andre Ward will be able to get back down to 168. Because let's not forget, Andre Ward struggled to make 168. He was very tight at the weight. There's no way, maybe they could look to make it a catch weight and still for all the belts at 170 or something. But as soon as you go above 168, then it's not really a super middleweight fight, to be honest. Has there ever been a title fight that have been above the weight class? I'm not sure. I don't think so. Because once you go above 168, it's not a super middleweight fight. It's more a light heavy fight. But I'm pretty sure in this sport you could find a way, to have it at catchweight and still with all the belts on the line. Who knows? But that aside, I definitely think this would be a massive fight. I definitely think this would be a fight that would interest a lot of the fans. Even though Ward has not been active, Ward isn't the fighter. I would assume he's not the fighter he was. So it definitely would favor Canelo right now. And for me, it would just add to Canelo's legacy. But I still think that Ward has a lot more to gain because if Canelo was to beat Ward right now, a lot of people will say, well, Ward was past his best. So Canelo's not really going to get any credit. People are going to view it the same way when Canelo beat Kovalev. So I feel like Canelo's got a lot to lose, not much to gain, because if he beats him, he'll just say, well, Ward wasn't the same fighter, So I really like that fight. I really like that fight because I think it would definitely be a massive fight, and I think it'd do big numbers as well. I think because Ward is a great fighter. And even at this point, he'll still be good. I just don't know whether he'll be good enough to beat someone like Canelo at this point. Especially with Canelo being where he's at, in his career, at the peak of his powers, the way his confidence was so high and him just beating guys up. Yeah, that would be a very difficult fight for Ward at this point. So I would definitely favor Canelo in that fight right now. But is it a fight that is realistically going to happen? I don't think Ward would do it because I think Ward knows that. See, Ward towards the end of his career was starting to talk about Anthony Joshua, rather than a Canelo fight, because Ward was basically, the reason why Ward was saying that, Ward was thinking that both fights are a risk. But Ward wanted to, for me, go up and maybe look at the AJ fight is because he thought he'll get a lot more credit from a career point of view. From a legacy standpoint, he'll get a lot more recognition by beating Anthony Joshua because he's a bigger man. Whereas fighting Canelo is very risky. The money will be probably about the same. But if he loses, his career may be looked at in a completely different way. Whereas losing to Anthony Joshua, it's kind of like people will say, well, Joshua was just too big. And he would have been too big for Andre Ward. But losing to Canelo Alvarez would be seen differently because Canelo's a guy that's actually smaller than you. So Ward wouldn't really have a lot to gain in that fight. Especially now he would, because Ward's past, he isn't the fighter, he's older. So now, and Canelo's the best in the world, Ward would definitely have a lot to gain. But I think there's definitely some kind of bitterness. There's definitely something brewing there. There's something not right for me because the fact that he's training Caleb Plant just doesn't, it just came out of the blue. Like, when has Ward ever worked with anybody? He invited Caleb to his gym as well. He's mentioned that today. Yeah, something doesn't add up to me. I definitely think that maybe, Ward feels that, Canelo may surpass him. So if he works with Caleb, maybe he could get Caleb to beat. I don't know. I'm just speculating. He's just throwing things out there. Maybe Ward don't care. Maybe he's just friends with Caleb and he's just trying to help him. Who knows? But yeah, I definitely think there's, over the last couple of weeks, there definitely has been something brewing between Canelo and Andre Ward. I don't know if it's true, whether Canelo has said some of the things that he said and some of the things that these YouTube channels are reporting, because the mainstream media hasn't reported this. So I don't know, maybe he said it in it. Canelo said something in an interview. Someone said he said something in a Spanish, when being asked in a Spanish interview. I don't know. But that would definitely be, if you know, that would definitely be an interesting fight if, you know, Ward and Canelo were to get it on. It would definitely be interesting. What do you guys think? Do you think this is a possibility this fight may happen? Or do you think, nah, you know, it's just all talk, it's just guys talking? I don't know. I think there's definitely something brewing. Leave your thoughts though, guys. Let me know what you think. And guys, remember to please like, share, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.